for us. Yeah, so we don't have anything. Oh, yeah. We don't have anything formal. We use them. We use them as a engineering. Sure. So, but as far as building experience,
this is our third round, so we're really stepping up this game.
I was definitely, let me see. Yeah.
Do you want you're
I love that she waited for the third session to hand me the clicker. Messing around with that.
it out?
Messing around with that keyboard.
Say this should be lively.
Yeah, now I can dance while I do this. I've never actually used a clicker before.
Don't break it on me.
We're gonna just go back and forth. Seizure or something.
Don't use it like a finger.
No. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome. All right. So some of you have been here before. Do we have any new folks? I know you, the new people. So this is part 3 of a 4-part series. The first part was basically an executive overview. So forgive me, those who have been here before, we're going to do a little bit of review like we did last time, but then we'll get to some basic stuff. So first one was an executive overview. If you are thinking about standing up a internship program, not a point in time I want to get an intern, but I want to start a program that's going to stand the test of time and be a funnel for talent and all that good stuff. These are the things that you should consider when you're developing that. The second session, and we'll get into that a little bit, was more of this is what you do to build that foundation. So once you've made that decision to go ahead and establish a program, these are the things that you need to do. And then today is about the execution of that. Program stood up, now we're going to run it. Today, so I feel like even though there's more slides today, in my mind, it's a lot of the same stuff, quite honestly. So when I look at today, it's a lot around training and development. It's a lot around communication, and it's a lot around feedback. And I'll dig in a little bit, of course, but for me, you might hear like a lot of repetition. Just deal with it. It bears repeating. Some of the things that we'll get into are so critical from my perspective that I'm going to probably harp on it a little bit more than you'd like. And so again, we're going to run through, once we get into today's session, we'll touch on securing your interns, training and development, performance and disciplinary issues, feedback, and communication. Okay, we did this last time. Who am I? So I do customized training, classes like this, a lot of one-on-one professional development and coaching, some classroom stuff. This is why the only time I've used a clicker before. You know, not a lot of need for that when you're doing one-on-one coaching. And then I did just open Hive 309, a collaborative co-working space right over by Grove. So session 1, we touched on when you're building out, why should you do this? We talked about the benefits of having an intern. Basically, the next 2 we talked about in conjunction, right? A needs assessment for your organization as well as company capacity. What you need and what you're capable of, well, they will intersect at some point in time. You just have to kind of find that magic moment. Nothing's free. Obviously, there's a budgetary component to anything you do. And then what could possibly go wrong? And I think the main thing there, that's slightly rhetorical, I think the main thing is just understanding no matter what you do, no matter what kind of planning and execution, you're going to have problems just like you do with regular employees. The important thing for me is just because you're having an issue doesn't mean it's a bad program. It doesn't mean it's a bad intern. It just means you work through those things. We'll talk about a feedback loop later. You just reinsert that into the program and make it better and better. Okay. Yeah, I actually have to say that. All right, session 2 in review. We go in and we'll dive in a little bit more program goals, organizational alignment, process development. Okay, so this is important to review in that when you do get started, it's very easy to kind of get into our daily routine with everything that we do. And a internship program is no different. You'll go ahead and get those interns and everybody just goes back to just their daily work. And we forget about why we're doing this in the first place. So these are important things to document, establish, document, and then revisit as you go along, right? Including really every step along the way. So what are you hoping to achieve through this program? Why do you actually need interns? How will you leverage them? What will you not put them through, right? I think the days of the traditional, like, hey, intern, go get me coffee, make these copies, that's gone with the current workforce and what we're trying to accomplish here. So this isn't about pushing work down to the lowest level. This is about test driving people a little bit. We talked about a lot of other benefits, but that's a big piece from my perspective. How will they engage in the community? What kind of culture are you looking to create? We talked about the organizational alignment in day 2. The organizational and departmental benefits. Those may be different depending on which departments are leveraging interns, which departments are not. The program vision and values. That's important to continuously revisit to make sure that you're on point. Roles and responsibilities. I think clarity here is one of the biggest pieces to make sure that the people within the organization know why they're a part of this program, whether it's an executive champion, whether it's people doing the screening and the hiring, people doing the mentoring, people handling disciplinary action, that sort of thing. And then this roadmap. The roadmap, again, is what you start with is obviously not going to be what you end with. And so how are you going to ramp this? You're not going to start a program and all of a sudden have 30 interns your first time out. That's something, it's important to understand that and know what that path looks like. So set those goals, right? Maybe we're just doing 2 interns the first year. We're going to learn, we're going to see what that looks like. And then we're going to go to 4 interns next year. You may only have a capacity of 4 interns ever. That might be your max. Whereas you talk to somebody at Growmark and they might do 100 interns in a year. It's accurate. Communication strategy, and we'll dive more into that. Okay. And then the program vision and values. This is, again, a reminder of the difference between vision and a mission statement. That's very easy, I think, to kind of mix up. Even when you're going through the process and we start just throwing out these wonderful words that marketing folks love, and then we don't really know where they belong. And so I'll read through all this, but the pause for Amanda Jones, who's going to be watching the recording. Hi, Amanda. Okay. Process development. That's the last thing, I believe. Yeah. So process development. In anything you're building, reminder, it's important to have these processes in place because the person who starts this program is not going to be the person who finishes it, right? People come and go, people change roles. And so it's important to understand what the expectations are, what that process looks like, so you can be consistent and you can be clean with that. So anything from a recruitment process, selection, onboarding, all the way through that feedback process. That brings us to today. All right, so today is about execution. Main thing here, securing interns obviously is kind of that step 1. Training and development is a huge element for me. We'll get into performance and disciplinary issues a little bit. Feedback, and then communication, which is really runs throughout this whole process. Okay, so securing the interns, we talked about these things intertwined a little bit, right? The foundational element to the executional side of things. We talked about this, but understanding where are you going to find interns? Where are you going to post? I think even things as simple as this are where people they don't know where to start. They start feeling a little hopeless from day 1. But the bottom line is there's a number of different places you can start with. Just make the decision. If you know you're going to post online, great. What platforms are you going to post on? If you know you're going to partner with these local universities, great. You're posting on their websites. You're talking to their career centers. If you know you're going to go ahead and target some additional geographies, determine that, put that into your workflow, and make that happen. I think I talked about last time, I worked for an IT company for a number of years, and we were based in Chicago, but Ball State was just a breeding ground of new employees for us. And so we would go ahead and recruit there and bring people through that process all the time. ISU was another one, and it was so good for our talent development. Recruiting, same thing. It's different to post. It's another that I feel like posting. We'll get into that a little bit, but recruiting, screening, hiring, and onboarding. Okay, so let's jump. Okay, with your postings, number 1, be early, right? I think it's very it's difficult. I just talked with somebody the other day who says like, I need an intern. I need an intern now. Well, depending on what time of year that is, are all the good students, and I hate to say this, right? But there are layers, you know, when it comes to talent, are the cream of the crop have they already determined where they're going next year? Have they already decided, oh, in the fall, I'm going to be doing an internship here or there? If you're looking for a fall intern in September, you're late to the party, right? Maybe April is when you should be posting. And I don't have all the answers when it comes to that and the timing in your market and your industry and things like that. But those are the things you need to think about. And those are the conversations you need to have with the partner organizations that you're looking at. You need to be clear and consistent with the language so people know exactly what they're getting into. I think every one of us probably has had an experience where we're looking at a job description or a job posting and we're wondering things like, how much does it pay? This is a great job description, but what am I really going to be doing? What development opportunities are there? That kind of thing. And then casting a wide net. When it comes to posting, we'll talk about recruiting, but when it comes to posting, you don't know where that magic person is going to come from. You have no idea. And so posting, kind of casting that wide net, I think is very important because for me, I have a bit of a sales background as well. And if we only focus when it comes to sales, if you're only doing this, you're missing 10 other channels of sales that could be uncovering your next client, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to people management and bringing in the right talent. Okay. Recruiting, I would equate this when it comes to sales as like, okay, I might do some marketing and I might do all kinds of stuff like that. But when it comes to recruiting, I might equate this to like target accounts. And I have like 5 accounts that I'm very interested in working with because I think it's a good fit. I think they would be good for us. We would be good for them. And that's where I think recruiting kind of turns the corner versus just posting. And so you're developing key relationships. If you know that you want to continually every year, you want to go ahead and hire marketing because good marketing folks are hard to find. They come and go. Maybe they want to start doing freelance stuff. Maybe they want to rediscover themselves and do something else. It doesn't matter. But if you go ahead and start developing a relationship with the marketing college, for example, and you build those relationships with some of the professors, and you build relationships with the head of the department, then semester after semester, year after year, when it comes to your new postings, the relationship is there. You can ask for recommendations. Who are your top 3 students? Who would you recommend? Who can we talk to? Can I come to your class? I've got a buddy that I play soccer with that he is a professor over at ISU. He teaches sales. They don't have a lot of sales professors. They have marketing professors, but not a lot of sales professors. And I talked with him about doing something over there, and he had me come in and guest lecture and talk about advanced sales negotiations. So I gave my real world experience, which happened to dovetail really nicely into the academic side, all things that he talked about with them. Side of that is he allowed me to go ahead and then kind of address his students and talk about what I do and potential growth opportunities within my organization. So those types of things, you never know where you're going to have that opportunity to partner and recruit a little bit deeper than just a basic posting. Okay. Looking for the right fit. Be careful how you represent. These are 2 things that I think of when I coach on hiring, for example. Just when you're hiring a regular employee, the interview process, that whole process gets a little weird, I feel like. So I think one of the reasons why organizations have so much turnover and have a hard time finding a fit is because the interviewing process, the recruiting process can be a bit of a sham. So organizations are hell-bent on putting their best foot forward, right? They want potential candidates to know that they're the best organization in the world. Flexible this, unlimited vacation time, great pay, your boss is awesome, all these things, right? And the candidate, all they want is a job. And so all they want to do is make a great impression, and they're leaving out all the bad stuff. They're like, hey, I'm such a fast learner. I'm a team player, blah, 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 blah. And they go on and on and on and just talking about how great they are. Problem is that creates a bit of a mismatch because now all of a sudden you're not looking for the best fit as an employer. You're looking for just who you think is the best candidate. And so you're picking this one who really showed well. They said all the right things. They were so professional. They were so well spoken, but you might be missing the mark. And so I focus on fit. I don't focus on who's the best candidate, who's the right candidate. I don't focus on what the best organization is, what's the best organization for me. And so if you focus on that, on being really honest with them about this role. The last time I hired, I created a sales team. I stopped hiring salespeople because they don't know what they're doing. Salespeople don't get trained, right? They just get hired because, hey, you're in sales, you must be good, but they're not trained. And they don't always understand how hard the job is. And so I hired based on key characteristics. I had a number of things that I wanted my team to be able to do. I wanted them to be intelligent. I wanted them to be adaptable, right? I wanted them to be hardworking. I wanted them to know that this is a grind. And no matter what, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to work hard. And I didn't care if they had sales experience because I can teach them this and this and this. I care about their character. I care about what kind of human they are. And I'm telling you what, the success rate on that team was phenomenal. And each one of those folks has now moved on to a COO of this startup. Somebody's head of sales for is it Liquid Death? Is that water company or whatever? He was with Nestle and now he's running sales out on the East Coast for them. One's director of customer success at this big marketing firm in Chicago. They all moved on and just continued developing in their career because they had a good jumping off point. They were all the right people for the right job, for the right team at that right moment. And then we all worked together to grow together and develop together. It wasn't because they were better than anybody else. They were the right fit for that moment, for that role. And so I can't overstate this. I don't care, right? I don't care what that pedigree looks like. I don't care if they say all the right things. People get nervous. I'd much rather somebody come into an interview and say, hey, I don't do a lot of interviews. I'm a little nervous. I know you got a lot of candidates. I've got questions. I want to know what the training is going to look like. I want to meet my boss. I want to know what my life is going to look like here. And then if it's the right fit, great. It doesn't matter how much it pays at that. It could pay 200 grand a year, right? But if it's not the right fit, it's going to be miserable. And so this same thing with interns, look for fit. It's very easy to make that desperation hire. This is the best one we've got. Doesn't mean they're the right fit. High horse. Okay. All right. Screening and hiring, involve the right people in the process. I just referenced the who's going to be the boss. It's very easy for these things to get pushed off to HR or other mechanisms that are already in place within an organization. I've been in those situations where you go ahead and hire, interview with one person and then you go and work for another. The dynamic is wrong. The expectations are wrong. They're not the type of leader you want. And now you're miserable, right? And I think that there's that saying, right? People don't quit jobs, they quit people or they quit bosses or whatever. It's the same thing. You should be focused on the intern experience because it does so much from you. I think we talked about this in one of the sessions. It does so much for you around brand and PR and what you can get out of the community when it comes to your reputation, even with that intern, based on their experience and how you treat them. So it's okay to be inconsistent. So I feel like every HR department is afraid of what if we get sued and we don't want to discriminate? Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want to discriminate. We want to be within the law. But I think we don't allow ourselves the freedom to have a real conversation when we're screening candidates and we're going through that process because we want to be so consistent. So we don't give anyone an unfair advantage or ask the wrong question or do this or that. But then we forget about the fact that they're humans and everybody's different. And sometimes you have to ask the right question to get the right answer, not just the same question. So don't be scared. All right, be swift and be clear. Nothing is more draining for a potential candidate than a long process an unclear process. I haven't heard anything. I've seen processes take months and months and months and months for employee hiring, for that sort of thing. Don't do that to these people, right? Be quick, be decisive, go. If you have a multi-stage process, which is great, I fully endorse that because you want to make sure they're a technical fit, a cultural fit, all that good stuff. Maybe you have them talk to 3 or 4 people throughout the process. Be clear with them about that process so they know this is what they're getting into. Okay. Don't be afraid to give feedback. I think with this, I think we owe it to people in general to help each other be better. And so if you've got feedback for a candidate, whether you're taking them or not, don't be afraid to give them feedback based on how they did, whether or not you think they're a good fit, you know, that kind of thing. They're humans, you are too, have a conversation with them. And then reject with class. I don't know why I specifically wrote that, but the bottom line is don't ignore people. Again, the same thing. If you decide not to select someone, let them know. A simple email is fine. You don't have to call them in and have a conversation. But when people are left hanging, they're wondering, they're waiting. And it might be just another candidate to you or just another intern candidate for you. But the bottom line is for some people, to them, it's the world at this moment in time. This is it. This is everything hinges on, am I going to get this internship? This is my only path forward in my career. I got to get this internship. And then they never hear anything. And 3 months later, they're still wondering, like, I mean, I guess I should know by now, right? It's September. So notify people. Okay, onboarding. So there's good onboarding, there's bad onboarding. I talked about this a little bit in the last session. If you have a bad onboarding, it kills that relationship, it kills that vibe. This is your first impression once you bring somebody on board. I think I talked about last time, I went to one company and they basically didn't even know I was coming. Right? No computer, no paperwork, no HR, no this, no that. And I had to kind of, you know, it's like pulling teeth. Hey, do I need an HR? You know, do I need a sexual harassment form, banking, health insurance? You know, it's got to be here somewhere, right? Went and bought my own laptop and started working. I've also been, when I was in IT, we had a 3-day onboarding. We would fly people in no matter what part of the country they were from. And they would do anything from meet with every department to learn what that department does and why they function and who they can talk to, meeting with the president to understand the history of the organization and why we do what we do, getting their laptop, getting their phone, getting set up, helping set up their voicemail, all those things. And it sends a very, very different message. Are you important or are you not important? Okay. For that, be prepared, right? What are all the different things you need, right? HR, policies, all that good stuff. Tools, facility, meeting their team. What do they need to work? Where do they need to work? Dress code. Do they bring their lunch? Do they, you know, do you have a fridge? Do you have a microwave? All those things are little things when you work in that environment, but not when you're new. Got to think about these details and make sure you're communicating them to people. Set expectations, same thing. This is anything from be on time, call if you're going to be late, don't act crazy. We learn how to behave based on the direction we receive from others. We learn how to behave sometimes by kind of that, I don't want to say herd mentality, but I coach my son's baseball team and we had a kid that was kind of helping out last night. And he came in and he started doing a chant. Guess what? My team doesn't like to do chants. They're like, no, that's for little kids. We're 11. We don't do chants here, kid. And so they were teaching him what their expectation was. That doesn't fly here. We don't do chants, okay? We didn't need to have a big PowerPoint about it. They let him know. He stopped doing chants, okay? Establish that culture, establish that team. Again, you have to be purposeful with this sort of thing. You can do this organically. It takes so much longer versus being very purposeful with how you mentor, how you pair people together, what the expectations are for them, and then encourage feedback. I would say we'll skip that because there's a whole other section of feedback. All right, any questions so far?
Yeah, slide beforehand, talking about on that. And I'm thinking about, I don't know if it was a horror story or not, but I run a help desk and we have very specialized, we're not IT guys, we do whatever the hat requires that day. So it could be executive leadership, hey, my computer won't do this, or my cell phone won't do this, or I need to get an email or stub my toe, whatever. You know, we do everything. And when we had an HR, we were a little smaller at the time. We had an HR woman in the office who handled hiring. And at some point, the decision was made beyond me to hire a recruiter to come in and find the right fit. And she in her mind was like, oh, I'm gonna look at IT candidates. And it's like, no. First off, we're not looking to spend that kind of money, right? Because they're coming in like, I want 75 grand a year because I have an IT background where I got certified in this. But we need someone who can have the personality to deal with the people, who was technical and capable of learning that, and can also work autonomously, you know, because we're in a team environment, but you know, every chicken does their thing independently. Anyhow, she came in, myself and my superior, when we met with two candidates who were family members of people who work with us. Those are the best candidates, right? Typically. And these guys were, you know, had kind of a technical background, not a heavy one, but were able to be programmed or to do the job. And going down your list here, I'm seeing involve the right people, right? That's very important. You know, we were a little inconsistent because they're talking to us and all of a sudden they're talking to this recruiter who has no clue, right? The bottom line is this: she basically didn't like the candidates, and we were like, oh my God, these guys are perfect for what we need. We went round and round and round, and it comes into your next, you know, they weren't getting timely feedback. It was taking a long time. And in the end, we ended up firing her and hiring the two guys she said weren't fit. And 6 years later, they're still on board. So if you don't have the right people looking, you know, or the right people who are involved in working with these potential teammates, it could be a disaster. And we made a decision to ignore the recruiter we were paid for, and thank God we did, you know, because we had these guys through COVID, and that was a crazy time to be hiring people. So I just wanted to share it. Kind of, for me, it kind of rang home.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of trust your instincts too, because I think I've done it where you go ahead and make a bad hire, and then you think back and you're like, there were red flags. There were things, but I'm like, oh, I can overcome that. You know, that kind of thing. I think we all have egos, you know, like, oh, I can fix that, or that's not that big of a deal. But anytime I've ignored that feeling that maybe they're not the right fit, it always come back to bite me. You got to trust your gut. I did a hire a couple of years ago. Yes, please.
I was gonna ask, you go with your instinct, but you have to put that into words. How do you figure out? Well, I feel like there's something about them that, how do you put that in a way that's like satisfies someone else who has to look at your decisions and why you.
Great question. So I was about to tell this story and I'll adjust how I tell it to answer that question. Okay. So we were hiring for a salesperson, but we needed them to do something very specific. And we're part of this franchise. They wanted him to take this personality test. And this is somebody that I know. This is a friend, a neighbor, but all of a sudden he's on the market. I'm like, perfect. You'd be a great fit. I want you to interview. And they did this assessment. And then so later I'm with the owners of the company and this independent person who conducted this. It's a paper assessment. It's not like he interviewed. And he's basically, I wish I were exaggerating, but he's like, he's unstable. He hates his wife. You know, I'm not, it's like basically he's a serial killer, right? It's this whole thing about how do not hire this guy. This is the worst decision you could ever make. And the whole time I'm like just watching this, right? I'm watching unfold and we get off the phone with this guy. I'm like, I disagree. Like, here's why. And I talked through, listen, some of the things he said may be right about this, but we don't need him for that. That's not what we're hiring for. We need him for this. And I am supremely confident that he can do just that. Right? He can be everything we need him to be. Maybe nothing more, but that's fine. We don't need him to be more. We need him to be this. And they trusted me. And it's one of those things where I staked, you stake your reputation every time you recommend somebody, every time you go to bat for somebody. But I felt strongly about it. And I said, listen, this is the guy. And he's still there. I'm not, right? I moved on and I started my own consulting firm, but he's stood the test of time, and they've all said, like, what a great hire, thank you. And I'm like, I mean, he may hate his wife, but he's still really good at his job. Does that help?
It did.
I got very specific about the role and his capabilities at that point in time.
So mom satisfies what you need instead of like other pieces that may not be as important.
Absolutely. And it's okay to just feel it too. I know this, I can feel it. I can tell this person is the right fit based on how they engage, based on their energy. There is something to that. It's okay. Okay, training and development, strategy, expectations, initial training, coaching, and future growth. Okay, so I feel like when it comes to anything, gotta have a plan. I say that, but I'm very sometimes I'm fly by the seat of my pants. So don't listen to everything I say. But the bottom line is, it's very easy to go ahead and just haphazardly, this person doesn't know how to do this, I'm going to train them. Then they're doing their job, and all of a sudden something else pops up that they don't know how to do. Let's train them on it. That doesn't mean it's strategic. So you've got to think about what you want out of this intern. And it might be different for each intern, right? If you have different departments, different roles you're hiring them for, that's okay. It's a little more work, right? But it's worth it for what you're doing. You're developing future employees, and you're maximizing the impact of that intern during their tenure with your organization. So spend time developing that strategy. Not only what do you want out of them during that internship, which might be very limited. It may be you only need them to do a couple of things. But if you can structure it to the point where, all right, if I can teach them these things, then I know when we hire them, I can teach them these other 3 things. So be focused on their development. And it could be that you're teaching them things that'll kind of help them hit the ground running should they transition into a full-time employee. Involve the right people, same thing as we've discussed. Their development is key. You've got to understand who's going to be mentoring this person, who's the oversight. If the training plan is being developed by L&D or by HR or by Bob, it doesn't matter if that's not their department, or they're not the ones that are going to be monitoring this person or mentoring this person. It's got to make sense. And then focus on the intern experience as well. Again, this can be one of the greatest PR and brand building things when it comes to your reputation as a company, as an employer. That people are going to hear about this. They're going to see it. There's so many different ways to promote this. So make sure that the training and development is cohesive, it's well thought out, and it also benefits them. Okay. Expectations. So number 1, we're going to go in reverse order. Early, often, clear. So I'm a big proponent on setting expectations. That prevents so many issues. If you know what's expected of you, it makes it so much easier to do your job. I have consulted with many employees, and they'll struggle with, I don't even know what my job is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. There's no clarity in my role. That makes it really difficult to succeed. Especially when so much now is tied to performance metrics and KPIs and this and this and this. You can't just be a good employee. You have to be a good employee targeting these specific KPIs, because otherwise they don't know you're a good employee. It's all managing up and playing that game. So you've got to have clarity and the right metrics in place. So you're measuring the right things and you're monitoring and supporting them in the right way. Daily commitment, again, when you're doing life and you're doing the work thing, it's very easy to get heads down and forget about the intern. What if they're remote? Way easy to forget about them. What if they're in the office next door? Easy to forget about them. Bottom line is you've got to be so purposeful about their development. It has to be top of mind, daily commitment. They're here for a reason. And it should be this way for all of your employees. Quite honestly, this is about development. Everybody on your team all the time. And then creating your individual development plans. This goes back to the previous slide. Putting this strategy together, everybody should have a plan and what you expect from them and where you want them to be by the end of this internship. Initial training, different than onboarding, right? Onboarding is just that welcome to our company. These are all the basics of our organization. This is what you need to know to survive here. The initial training, I think of more as, okay, this is your job now. And these are the things that you need to do to be successful in this job. These are the tools that you're going to be using, all the basics to get them rolling. This is table stakes. This is basic stuff that people forget. It's just like, hey, I mean, think of this as potty training. Think of this as here's how you feed yourself. These are basic things that anybody needs to learn, but we don't always take the time to do it. Ensure comprehension. I'm a visual learner. If somebody sits here and just rattles off 800 policies and 4 different job tasks, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to listen and I'm going to do my best. But for me, I've got to either see it or I've got to do it. And so they could train me for days telling me things, but until I actually do it, I'm not going to learn. And I won't have the kind of questions I'll have until I try to do it. And so that's important to understand. When you're coaching someone, we'll get into coaching a little bit more, but when you're coaching with someone, just because you said something doesn't mean they received it. Everybody receives information differently. Everybody's brain works a little bit different. You can coach them on something. That doesn't mean they understood you. So you've got to make sure that there's alignment there. You've got to make sure that they understand their role, that they understand the task, that they understand their place. They understand everything, including, hey, feedback is a good thing. Feedback from you, from me, they've got to be engaged. If they don't understand that, it doesn't matter. Revisit in future coaching. I think I might mention that even on the next slide. Yes. Initial training. I think it's very common to start at a new company and you learn a system. And that system could be, hey, this is how you do your time card. And then it could be 2 weeks before you have to do your time card again. And you're clueless. Feel dumb asking your boss because I know it's not that hard. They taught me how to do it, but I don't know how. And now it's this weird thing. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You've got to give them an opportunity to continue learning. Those initial trainings can be overwhelming. They're still probably happy they have a job. And so they're not going to retain everything, right? It's that initial fire hose. Come back to the things that are important. I've been in those sales roles where they teach you how to use your CRM. They teach you how to use that platform, but it might be 6 months before I'm ready to put a deal in there. And so now I'm going to try and catch my boss, who's also a salesperson, doesn't want to spend the time with me because that means they're not making money. And I've got to bother them with this administrative task that nobody wants to do. That's a hard way to live. And be patient. Everybody has different levels, right? We're not all rocket scientists. We're not all ditch diggers, right? We all learn different ways. We've got different things we're strong at, different things we're weaker at. Be patient. Now, obviously there's a line. You know, if we train somebody 34 times on one thing, we've checked for comprehension, we've done this and they just can't get it. Maybe that's not the right fit for that role, right? We've got to obviously make decisions along the way, but through the process, be patient and remember what it's like to learn. Okay, future growth. This is important as well, right? Consider the intern's goals. It's very easy to go ahead and think about, all right, we want them to grow into this type of employee. We want them to move into this role when they graduate. We want them to do this. We want them to do that. What are their career goals? What do they want to do? It may be that they just wanted this internship for experience. Know that. Understand what are their goals? What do they want to do beyond this? and then help them. It doesn't matter if they stay with your company or not, you still have a job to do, and it's developing other people. And so the more we invest in other people, we all win. And so if you, I mean, even again, this goes back to reputation. Somebody leaves your organization, they go to another, and they show up to this other organization untrained, unrefined. And now all of a sudden that entire company is like, what are they doing over there? It reflects poorly on you versus somebody who is highly trained, highly engaged. You look good. You look real good. Okay, performance and disciplinary reviews. So we'll talk about speed to execution, documentation, no difficult conversations, and accountability is a dirty word. Okay, speed to execution. Don't ignore it. Don't sit on it. If you see anything, right, when it comes to performance issues, behavioral issues, address it right away. The longer these things sit, the longer they become difficult or irrelevant. Don't visit the past. I had a client, they had a policy in place, which I loved. When it came time for performance reviews, you couldn't introduce anything new in a performance review. If you hadn't talked with them about this issue prior to this, tough luck. You do not get to bring that up in their performance review. It's unfair. They haven't been coached. They haven't been taught. They haven't been given the opportunity to improve or change that behavior. That's not the time. Can't do it. And then be objective. I love this analogy. When you plant a flower in your garden, right, and it doesn't grow, you don't blame the flower. You figure, okay, maybe it's not getting enough sunlight. Maybe it's not the right soil, maybe not enough water, maybe too much water. So it's all about the environment. When it comes to people, we're very quick to villainize people, very quick to label them as bad employees, or they're not good for this, or they're not good for that. It could be fit. It could be anything from the wrong coworkers to the wrong work environment, to the wrong boss, to the wrong skill set, to the wrong job. It could be anything. It could be just the things going on in their life right now are causing them problems when it comes to focusing and growing in the role. Be objective, figure out how to help them, figure out how to solve the problem. Align with them versus documentation. So one of the most difficult things I think also is we try to give people chances. Maybe we're like, oh, that's not a big deal. I'll ignore that, right? I talked about old stuff you can't revisit. And then all of a sudden we come to the realization that somebody's just not the right fit, or they're a bad employee or something. We're like, all right, time to get rid of them. And we go to HR and they're like, all right, well, have you documented? And you're like, no, I haven't. Because it came to me that just now they're a bad employee and I got to get rid of them. And then you've got now 6 months to document, but they're doing a little bit better, but I still don't think they're the right fit, and that kind of thing. So I'm a big proponent of documenting, not from a disciplinary perspective. I'm not putting it in their shield. I'm not doing this or that, but I'm documenting it. So when I have one-on-ones with my team, we'll go ahead and have that one-on-one, and then I'll send out an email afterwards. This is what we discussed. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. They don't get it done. They get that follow-up email. This is what we agreed to. You haven't done this yet. We had another conversation about it. You keep talking about it, and the documentation is there. The emails are there. The goal is that's the way to help them succeed. I'll send them a reminder email. Hey, I did my stuff. That's my reminder. I did my stuff. Where's your stuff? To keep them engaged and to keep them moving forward. But it's also that way, if for some reason things do go south, you've got this history, documented conversations. They weren't disciplinary conversations. Those are taken differently. Those are handled differently. But we talked about this. We talked about that. They had this opportunity. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. It's all there. And so it makes it much easier, number one, to have those conversations with them. You're a more engaged leader. You're communicating. You're clear with what's expected of them. But if things do go south, it's documented. And it's not disciplinary at that point. Just documenting the coaching, documenting the conversations as part of that follow-up process to ensure a more effective process. Okay, there are no difficult conversations. I'm a big believer in this. Objectivity is my superpower. Again, I don't assign blame. I don't sit here thinking they're a bad employee. If you do it right, I don't think there are difficult conversations. I think they become difficult because we ignore them, right? We go 6 months before telling this employee that we think they're lazy. And then we're like, I don't really know how to tell them they're lazy. How do you do that after 6 months? Or they show up late every day, but I haven't said anything to them about it. That's why it's difficult. If somebody shows up late one day and you set that expectation and say, listen, I know it's going to happen, but we talked about the expectation. I need you here. So no matter what it takes, you got to be here because it affects all of us in this way. I know here's what happened. I apologize. It'll never happen again. Great. They change their behavior. They're good. They come in late again. We talked about it the other day. Now we need to go ahead and talk about what's next. Okay. We need to go ahead and put in this and this and this because you know that how badly this affects the team. Okay, no problem, right? I'm not passionate about it. This is just the way it goes. Right? You know the rules. And it's because of this. We've talked about it, but as soon as you start ignoring things, as soon as you start pushing off conversations, that's when they become difficult. I love when people are like, oh, we're going to teach you how to have difficult conversations. There are none. Not from my perspective. Change your mindset about that. I think people come in wanting to go ahead and again, they're a bad employee and they want to challenge them and they're the problem. But I would much rather go into that with, we have a problem. This is what I've seen. I would like you to help me fix it and align with them and get their thoughts on, hey, this is what I see as the problem. What are your thoughts? How can we fix it? They're like, yeah, I know. I have car problems and I'm really not okay. Well, what if we changed your shifts time to align with the bus schedule? You know what I mean? There's different conversations you can have to help people be successful versus just penalize them for things in their life that they maybe can't control. Another favorite. All right. Accountability is a dirty word. So everybody talks about holding each other accountable, whether it's like gym accountability partners or nothing actually happens. Like my wife and I are going to go on a diet and we're going to hold each other accountable. Well, no, you're not. Sure you want to eat that? Yeah, I am. Leave me alone. It doesn't happen. We talk about accountability. I feel like it's a bit of a fallacy. What happens is we only talk about accountability when something goes wrong. It's a backstop for failure. We're not talking about accountability when everything is going right and everybody's doing their job. We talk about accountability when something didn't get done. Who do we blame? Now we get to point fingers. Who didn't get it right? Bottom line is that's not how you positively impact the business. That's not how you positively impact the world. Okay. So I prefer a different approach. I prefer trying to help people be successful. It doesn't matter about accountability at that point in time. So when I was in IT and I was selling, I was in sales, I'm not technical. So when we would meet with a client, they would want to go ahead, hey, I need a proposal. Great. I can make you a proposal, but I can only make half of the proposal because I'm not technical. So I need my IT guy to go ahead and help with the scope, all the technical bits that I can't handle. And so he's in that meeting with me. So I get the alignment like, okay, Kevin, when can we get this back to the client? He's like, oh, we can get it to him by Thursday. Awesome. Okay. And then I go off and I do my part. Kevin says, okay, I'll go ahead and do my part and get it to you by Thursday. And then I wait and Thursday doesn't come, Thursday comes around. I'm like, hey, you have this? He's like, no, I forgot. Client doesn't care. Deal dies. Clients don't care, right? And there's no accountability. What am I going to do? He doesn't report to me. It doesn't matter. It's not like I'm going to discipline him. Bottom line, I lose. Company loses. Client's fine. They'll survive. And so I wouldn't hear from him. So I asked my VP, who's a good friend of mine, like, I'm struggling here. Every time I need something, I'm getting ghosted. They're not getting back to me. The work isn't getting done. Like, okay, so how does he like to be communicated with? I I email. That's how I like to communicate. When I email, it's off my desk. I'm done, right? My part is done, and I trust the adult on the other side to get it done because that's their job. He's like, well, why don't you ask him? So I asked Kevin, what's the best way to communicate with you? And he's like, don't email me. And I cornered him. He wouldn't respond to my emails, of course. He was at an event. I knew he was going to be there. I'm like, hey, dude. And we were talking, and he said, do not email me. I'm either in the car or in a client meeting. I never check my emails. Not going to happen. If you need me, need to get a hold of me, call me. I promise you I'll answer my phone. He's old enough that he answers his phone. I promise you that I'll answer my phone. And if I can't, I'll call you right back. So I'm like, okay, prove it. So the next time we had something going on, I called him. He answered the phone. This is awesome. And so now at least we have communication. That was step one for me, is I had to make sure that I was tailoring my communication to him, not to me, if I'm trying to impact this in a positive way. The other bit was, it doesn't help for me to go ahead and say, hey, on Thursday, is this done? That's not how I'm impacting positive change. That's just me being like, is it done? No, dang. Better luck next time. So what I would do is I would go ahead, even though it felt a little bit like babysitting, and you shouldn't have to babysit an adult. I would, 2 days later, hey, how's this coming? Any progress on this? Yeah, it's going great. It'll be ready by Thursday. Or I forgot about it. Thanks for the reminder. Or people keep throwing stuff on my calendar and I cannot find the time. It's driving me crazy. And so I would do the reminders. And if he was struggling, I'd do things like, hey, how much is this going to take? Like, how long is this really going to take? And he's like, honestly, if I could just sit and do it, 30 minutes. Cool. What if I put 30 minutes on your calendar? And protect your calendar against other incoming invites. He's like, that would be awesome. And then I get on a call with him and we walk through it together. That way I can ask the questions I need answered and we work through it together and we win. He didn't work for me. There's no accountability. We impacted positive change together by communicating and by working together to make sure it got done. It was a little more work on my end, but I would rather do a little more work on my end and have it work and be good for everybody than to just be like, who do I blame? That's why accountability is a dirty word in my mind. You can still use it if you want.
I call it hot potato. Marketing and sales likes to throw the potato.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got this? It's like, Laura, whoa.
Always a battle between service and sales. Always a service crybabies. I know, Mark. Okay, feedback. All right. There's a difference. So number one, have a strategy. So your feedback strategy needs to include all levels. It needs to include, probably have a slide for this, so whatever. We'll get to it. Ready? Strategy. It needs to include everything. Holistic strategy. It needs to include all stakeholders. What's the perception from your executive champion right now? How's it going with HR? How is it going with your mentors? How's it going with the interns themselves? What is the perception with the rest of the team? What are they seeing? Communication. It's important to communicate that. If you see something, like Amtrak, if you see something, say something. You've got to go ahead and communicate these things. I'm a big believer that virtually all, even the wars that we start, all conflict is a result of either poor or no communication. If we communicate the challenges that we're facing, hey, things to be going, they're going really well, but we're having problems with the onboarding process. So you communicate that out to the rest of the stakeholders. We're going to work through some things that we think are going to make some improvements next time around, but we just want to let you know it didn't go as smoothly as we thought it would. So we're going to make some edits to the program. Great. Who can complain about that? Culture. This is one of those things, again, you got to be purposeful with this. It's got to be a culture about development. It's got to be about the experience, and it's got to be authentic. Well, I think one of the reasons why I will absolutely pat myself on the back here, I think one of the reasons why I'm an effective leader is because I am authentic. I care about the people. I care about all people, but I care about the people that work with me. I care about their experience. I care about what they're learning. I care about their mental health. I care about all those aspects. And so when you do that and you're approachable and you're fallible and they can learn from you and you can learn from them, it creates this wonderful cultural experience where everybody feels like they're on the same team, like truly the same team, instead of just a team of people that happen to be working together. That is critical. I had, there's these best companies to work things, and it's all part of it's a gimmick, right? Like your HR team will go ahead and like pay money to get on these lists and stuff like that. But at one point, my IT company was on the Fortune list of top companies to work for. It was Fortune's list, and we were like on number 14 out of however many. And I had the University of Iowa, which I'm a grad, so it was kind of cool. But this guy he was a professor in an MBA class, and they were talking about culture. And he wondered how on earth a small IT consulting firm was number 14 on the Forbes list. And so he had me come and speak, and we talked about how did that happen? And it was purposeful, and it becomes this, I could go on and on and on about culture, but it becomes this self-sustaining monster at some point in time. Just like bad behavior and bad culture can just permeate, and it's really tough to fix something like that. Once you get a really strong culture established, it's amazing, because again, that herd mentality, and new employees come in and they're like, all right, this is how it is. Like, this is how I'm supposed to act. This is what's expected of me. This is how we treat each other. This is how we rise, lift each other up. It's so easy at that point in time. And so that's your culture. That's your world. And so, but you've got to be purposeful about creating that. Okay. Open spaces. So reason why I put this on here is people always talk about, oh, we have surveys and we have exit interviews and we have this, we have a feedback loop, right? We have the ability for people to provide feedback. People don't always feel safe giving feedback. Like, well, they don't really want to know what I think because they're not going to like what I have to say. That kind of mentality. The thing is, people will guard their comments, right? It's anonymous, right? So then it's like, okay, so then who do we talk to really get some clarity here? They're general criticisms of an organization, that how do we effectively act on those when we don't really know who the problem is or what's going on? And so for me, it's important to solicit this feedback, but to have really open and honest conversations with people. Like, I want to know the good, the bad, and the dirty. I want to know because I want to improve whatever we have going on. I built this new sales team, and it was new for our company. So we had some industry benchmarks when it came to compensation, but we didn't know. For our company, we all think we're different, right? Our company's totally different. And so we built the comp plan that we thought was appropriate. And I was very honest with them. I said, listen, we think this is good, but I have no idea until we do it. My one commitment to you will be, we will continue revisiting this to make sure that we get it as fair as possible for you, for us, for everybody, so we all win. So I need your honest feedback about how this is affecting your behaviors, how this is impacting your wallet, how this is impacting your life, your happiness, the target on your back when it comes to chasing down your quotas and things like that. I don't know what's right or wrong right now, but we have a starting point, and my commitment to you is we're going to make it better. And so I think we had 3 comp plans in 3 years because we would get feedback from the team, honest feedback about what this comp plan really did for them and what it did to them. And then we can make our tweaks. Let's run it back. Let's try again and see what we can do. And so people always think about feedback, but you've got to remove that fear, and you've got to remove that kind of awkward nature. I taught a class here maybe last year about developing a positive work culture. And then later I was talking with a CEO and head of HR, and they had an employee that they felt like she wasn't fully engaged. And she didn't seem to be like taking the next level when it came to leadership. And I offered to go ahead and, work with her and meet and everything. And like, oh, we're already meeting with her. I'm like, oh, okay, what'd that look like? The CEO of the company and the head of HR sits this woman down. No joke. and they say, do you even want to be here? That's not intimidating at all. You're going to get all the right answers when you ask that question, right? Of course, she's going to say, yes, I love it here. How do I get out of this room without getting fired? Like, that's not real. That's thoughtless. And so, again, they have their feedback loop. They're asking the questions, but they're not getting the answers, the right answers, because they're asking it in a different way. Okay, follow-up. This is where this is a morale killer for employees. It's going to be the same with your intern. You get feedback and then you do nothing with it. Your voice doesn't matter. You don't listen. They don't matter. Nobody cares. Be swift. But just because you're getting feedback doesn't mean either it's valid or doesn't mean you can do anything about it. So it may be something that you've got to think about and say, like, you know what? I love your feedback, but based on, you know, I did some thinking, we did some talking, everything. We can't make any changes now, but it's definitely something we'll look at. Like, be honest. Everybody's a human, right? It may be something that you can make an immediate change to the program, to the way they're, you know, to the job, the things that they're doing, but it may be something that's their particular perspective, vacuum sealed, and it doesn't take into account 17 other factors within the organization. So we can't make any changes. I love the feedback. Keep sharing because I want to know more. I just wanted you to know that we can't really make any policy changes today, but I wanted to get back with you. Like, that follow-up is important. It reinforces that they matter and that you want to continue hearing from them. Escalation. Again, still believe there are no difficult conversations. However, there might be escalated conversations. And so at some point, yes, if you've done all the right things, but you still have either an underperforming intern or a behavioral issue, and it may be something that it's an issue, not because the intern did anything wrong, but maybe you've got an employee or a leader or something happen that's causing strife, handle it. Don't ignore it. Don't hide it. Don't run from it. We talked about being swift. We talked about being quick and being clear with these types of things. Get after it. It doesn't matter. I had an employee grope another in public in front of other employees, and I reported it immediately to HR, and they're like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, what do you mean, what do I want to do? Is there another option besides like just firing this dude right away? Like, I couldn't lead an environment where I'm going to allow that. So how can we're not going to do the game where we're like, well, let's put him on administrative leave and investigate for 30 days. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's no debating this. He's gone. That's not acceptable in this world. Be clear, be quick. When it comes to performance, this is about everybody, right? This is not just about the intern. Everybody plays a role in this program. Everybody's measured, right? In some fashion or another. Are you getting what you need out of your stakeholders, out of the interns, out of the team, out of the program? Continue assessing, continue reviewing, seeking feedback about all of these things. Not just the interns, not just HR. Every component needs to be looked at. Exit interviews, this is the same thing about kind of the approachability and everything. Companies are great at just doing the, hey, fill out this form, or HR is going to go ahead and ask you questions. Employees are checked out. If they're leaving, they're gone. Good terms are bad. They're like, on to the next thing. You've got to find a way to peel back the onion and find out the things you need to find out, because that's your last chance. Even if it's a matter of, you know what, I'm really sorry it didn't work out. I know you had a bad experience here. That's not what we wanted for you. Let's see if we can make it better for the next one. Like, I really don't know how this went south, but it did. How can we make this better? We can't change it for you, but how can we make it better for the next person? Okay, feedback loop. This is on the execution and the follow-up, right? Continually reinserting this into the program, the team, for everybody. Act on the feedback that you receive. Okay, communication. Any questions? We'll continue. We're getting there. I think communications might be the last one. Okay, anything in? All right. Okay, so communication. Same thing. I believe in being comprehensive. When you just focus on one particular thing, I think you omit a number of different things. When it comes to communication, I want you thinking about everything. How are we going to promote this program? How are we going to talk about it? What are we going to share about it with our employees? Everybody has different ideas on how budget dollars should be spent. Why are we investing in interns? Shouldn't we just hire new people who can actually do the job? This is all about packaging. An internal communication strategy, an external communication strategy, all these things matter when it comes to whether or not your program will be successful. It doesn't matter how well it's run. If it's not sold properly, it's going to be viewed poorly. Bottom line. Vision, values, program specific. Who's involved in the program? This matters, right? You have bosses and employees and people complaining about so-and-so not carrying their own weight. Maybe they don't know that they hold a major part of this program and their workload has shifted. And they're going to be doing less of this or less of that because they're doing this now. So those are important things to know. Those are important things to share. What are the benefits of the program for the whole entire organization? Promotion. Again, this is kind of that PR point. Showcase the interns. Again, this is an opportunity to promote them. It makes everybody look good. The department, the mentors, the organization, the interns, to give them an opportunity to shine. People will often have projects that they can work on and develop and share and then present those. I think it's Growmark that they have this project and then they'll actually present it to like the CEO and the board. Like that's an awesome opportunity. Probably scares the crap out of most of the kids doing it, but what an awesome opportunity. How often do you get that opportunity to present in front of bigwigs like that? That also then, what message is that sending about their importance of the work they're doing and their value? They're not presenting to a screen, an anonymous screen. They're not presenting to the rest of their interns that, are they ever going to see them again? Maybe, maybe not, but it's, to present in front of the CEO and board, that's massive. Internal PR, again, this goes along with the previous slide around communicating that with the organization. It's packaging. It's all on how you sell it. Anything can look good or look bad, depending on the words you use, how you share it, when you share it. All these things matter. Feedback, same thing, right? This is including the interns in that process, making sure we're communicating feedback. Feedback is great, but again, it's all just, I don't know the word I want to use. It doesn't matter unless you're sharing it with people, unless people know that you've received this feedback and you're acting on it. When you do that, when you act on feedback and people know you've done that, it gains respect. They know you care and they know you're willing to act on it. Training and development updates. Talk about the progress of the team. We've got a phased development plan for these kids. They went through phase 1 and next they're going to be doing this, right? You can share those updates with the department, with the organization. You've got to decide what's appropriate, but it's there. Key dates and happenings. Again, if people are in the dark, they're confused about the program, they don't know. When are they getting there? What projects are they working on? Are there events like mixers so the interns can get to know other parts of the organization? And do they leave?
My daughter.
You're great. Thank you so much. External communication. This ties in again with the PR element and everything. How are you going to have the interns engage in the community? How is your program going to engage in the community? Are you going to have them volunteer with different philanthropies? Are they going to have interns supporting you at different events, representing you at these different functions? Community engagement, PR, how are you going to promote them? How are you going to leverage that in social media? You can get a lot of, I don't want to say street cred, right? But it shows that you care about development. It shows that you care about building up that next generation and that next level. When you're investing in these things, get credit for it. Changes to the program. Again, update program or personnel changes internally and externally. If you're making these changes, continue sharing those updates so people know. Those are important. It's just like any other organizational announcement. If you're changing your CEO, you're going to announce it. People are going to know about it. If all of a sudden you're changing the mentor, the key mentor for a program, share that with the group so they know who to go to provide feedback, who to go to if they have ideas, who to go to if they have concerns, who to go to if they think they might have a good intern. But if they don't know, it's really tough to have those conversations. That's it. What questions do you have?
You gonna write my program?
No.
Oh, good, thank you.
I'll go back to this time and time again. Focus on the development. Clear and open with your communication. Above all else, those are the types of things that win. Whether it's your interns, your regular employees, that's how you win. Okay, next session is in May 22nd. Shelly's checking. May 21st, told you. May 21st, we'll be back here, maybe. We'll update you if there's a different venue, but that's going to be a little bit of more of an open forum. We'll have somebody from the Career Center at Wesleyan, somebody from ISU, Patrick Maneri from the YMCA, who's been affiliated with a number of different programs previously. And they're going to come sit on a panel, answer questions, and provide a little bit of guidance based on their experiences as well.
I do have a question. I'm curious. Near Chicago, and I came down today because I learned about him in his class, and I thought I've been trying to put a co-op internship program together for my group and my organization. And then when it's like solo mission, it's kind of hard to get off the ground without the right angle. Anyway, so I'm kind of curious for the people that are here right now. Do you all have a program in place? Is this a new thing that you're taking initiative on, or is it an initiative of the organization? How long have you been looking into this, and do you find this? I find it helpful, but it's joint collaboration always helps with getting these types of things going. In my experience, thank you for inviting me to come up here because this is helpful. But I just find myself sometimes like on Mars by myself, and there's no thrusters to get off and come back home, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix this. How am I going to get this put together? And I started last year kind of putting my whole framework together. Did a PowerPoint just to kind of present to executive level what the plan was. And now it's just like, okay, let's execute it. And that's where I'm just like hitting a brick wall, getting that motivation to do so. So for all you all, are you still, is this a completely new thing with your organization as well? And are you the person that's going to be sort of the feather in the cap person with this being created, or is it just curious?
Well, I'm kind of like you. So spent about 6 months, trying to get some momentum. Got back in residence and HR,
right?
So they invited me out to kind of do the same thing. And I do have some reservations or concerns on how do you get that momentum, how do you, to your point earlier, it's like, it's not really the responsibility, it's not their main focus, right? So how do you pull people and get that done? So that's going to be some challenges,
Yeah, and I'm not in HR, so in your mind, it's easy to be like, okay, this is sort of an HR function, but they're not taking that initiative, and it's like, I explained earlier, because I have a specialized technical support group, you don't just peel these people off the street and train them. I mean, it takes 8 to 9 months, almost a year to ramp up. I can't afford to lose people when they decide it doesn't work out. So, and we have an extremely high, our retention rate, I don't know what the percentage is. I mean, 99.8, like we don't lose people. People retire in my company, which is unheard of anymore, right? But we also don't go crazy with hiring people all the time either. So you gotta wait for the budget to open up and then, okay, we can do this, green light, and it's like, okay, I'm not quite ready for this, so I was just curious to kind of get perspectives from some of you on this, am I alone with this kind of feeling of crap, I can do this,
And speak for contact in the department. Internet is ideal. I work in a law office and we have law clerks that come in seasonal, and usually they're second after law school, and that was a pipeline for us in that aspect. But these schools keep calling saying, do we have an intern program? They're talking about staff who want to go to law school and they want to get into a law office and see what it's like. And I have to move people away that I get more applications for things we have not posted at all. My worry is with the law clerks, we have paralegals that keep that workflow going. And we don't have the bodies in ops or HR to do that. So I'm putting it on the department or the practice area. Look, if you want to intern, you're going to take responsibility for them. What are you going to do with them? How are you going to make sure that they're doing something on day-to-day activity? How are you going to get them involved out on a closing or report? I don't want them just sitting there making copies and scanning all the time. And I've been upfront with these interns who think we have this intern program, but we have no intern program. So I'm trying to create it. And I've been upfront with them. It's like, look, there's no program. I'm interested in, if you're going to law school, because that's another pipeline for us. Is think of the law clerks, right? If I can build this now and I know they're going to law school, they've already been approved. That's another avenue for us to get another body in when we need them. And I've been upfront with them that, look, this is like new. If I can find a point of contact, then this is good. It's going to be part-time. Right. I don't have a training program set up, but here's some of the things that I think you'll benefit from. And it's just being the opportunity to have that face-to-face discussion. And I think in any department, you know who your go-tos are, right? Who's really good at training, who's good at coaching. There's other ones that, you wouldn't pair them up with anybody, right? So I've got a good department head who's willing to take this on. So I feel comfortable in that aspect, bringing them in, but I'm like full disclosure. It's like, look, I don't know what you've seen on TV, on all these JAG shows. Yeah. It's not like that. It's just a day-to-day rough. And you got to get in there, and there's not going to be someone holding your hand the whole time. Right? And I've also been looking at from other opportunities. Right? We don't have a true HR department. We have one person that wears multiple hats. And so wouldn't it be nice to get an intern and kind of guide them? But it's not so much hold handing. It gives them that opportunity to expand. But I won't do it unless we have someone that will take responsibility for the others. Don't tell me that it'd be great to have interns, and it's just talk, and then you're not going to help out whatsoever. So I'm putting it on departments, and if they blow it, they're not getting another.
Right. I agree. I mean, that's what you said earlier, man. You got to have the right people on it, and like I talked about earlier with the recruiter, we're the department taking these people in. We can see and talk to these people, and you're telling us they're not the right person. It's like, why are we paying you? We probably spent more on her for the consulting than we spent on one of the guys the whole year. So that's the other challenge, financials, how much you're going to spend on an intern, potential new employees. But I found myself calling colleges around the country where we have presence. Hey, I'm interested in the program, what do they have they can give me? Nothing, very few of them. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get some guidance here. I'm trying to get, where do I start? What do you need? And man, that is a brick wall. They're like, well, just come on in. We have the career services and we'll do, what do you need though? I need to know what to put together to meet your criteria so that your students come in and I can meet their needs as well as my own without, looking like it's just a selfish, I'll meet with, and we want to bring, but we want to also make sure we're doing as a collaborative thing, right? And
Build a relationship.
right, this was the first thing I was looking at your website and I saw this, like, oh, okay. Need to sign up for this because there is no, as far as I can see online, there is nobody saying, come take this internship, you know, introduction course where you learn how to figure it out, right? It's only one, so kudos. Appreciate it.
Shelley's idea.
Have you looked in your industry? And that's another thing I did. We're a small.
Yeah.
We're a mid-sized law firm. But in a large law firm, I mean, it's something we continue to do. And we have like a organization. I went into that organization, just kind of searched for intern program coordinator
Right.
and manager, and I found one. I haven't been able to reach out to them, but they do it on a consistent basis, and that's their job. I plan on calling them.
Yeah.
Their brains. I imagine somewhere in.
We're manufacturing, so I'm in banking industry, we manufacture check scanners for banks and the reader. Also, the partnerships with the banks, some of our resellers, they have their own support groups, depending on the contract with when it's tell them to come out to somebody. So we've kind of, for a long time, we're gonna let them sell that service so they can make that revenue.